Imagine being stabbed and waking up in a completely different world. That's our Seo Ji-hun, an ordinary office worker who just wanted a quiet, simple life. It starts with Seo Ji-hun heading home from work when his colleague Basu stops him, saying everyone at the company dinner is waiting. He hugs Ji-hun happily and urges him to join. As Ji-hun walked on, he overheard co-workers gossiping that he was skipping the dinner. They complained that while they were stuck with overtime, he would be drinking alone. Ji-hun understood their frustration but still felt sad. Then Secretary Jae-in, cheerful as always, placed her hand on his shoulder and told him they all deserved a night out. A boy nearby even shouted that Jae-in was the only one who truly understood him. Jae-in then declared, without giving Ji-hun a choice, that they would all drink together. While others chatted and laughed, Ji-hun thought about how absurd things had become. He had always wanted a balanced life, but it felt like that dream was slipping away. That's when he noticed a mysterious man nearby. Thinking he was a petitioner, Ji-hun asked if he was okay. The man said he was just following orders. Then he removed his mask and accused Ji-hun of ignoring him. Ji-hun tried to explain that he was only following procedure, but the man grew angry. Jae-in stepped in and said office hours were over, so we should return tomorrow. Suddenly, Jae-in screamed. The man attacked Ji-hun, striking him until blood spilled from his mouth. He then drew a knife, while everyone in the office froze in shock. In the chaos, a boy cried out in pain, not understanding why he was being attacked. The scene then shifted. The boy, Ilmok, was tossed aside like trash. Holding his stomach, he whispered that he was okay. Though stabbed, he realized his body was unharmed. Ilmok had been reincarnated into another world. A year later, he lived with his uncle Taehyun, helping at the family inn. He spent his days running errands, fetching water, and living by his motto: work moderately, relax moderately. Though he dreamed of wandering freely, he tried to adapt to this martial arts-filled world. One day, Ilmok saw flames devouring the mountains, with his inn destined to burn first. In the midst of the fire stood a white-haired old man. Ilmok panicked and drenched himself with water, but the old man simply told him to stay strong. Then, to Ilmok's shock, the man drew his sword and pointed it at him. Confused, Ilmok asked why he was being threatened instead of helped. The old man revealed the truth. He had caused the fire. His reason? The noodles at Ilmok's inn were bad. He said the fire was just a bonus punishment for Ilmok's insolence. Ilmok, stunned, asked how people could die over something so small. The old man dismissed his words and instead told him to become his disciple. Ilmok refused at first, haunted by memories of being stabbed in his past life. But the old man warned him, choose to follow or be killed by the Martial Alliance. Terrified and unsure, Ilmok stood and sat again, saying he was honored by the elder's offer. Satisfied, the old man introduced himself as Haekryun Ilwe. Ilmok realized he had heard of this name before. It was tied to the Heavenly Demon, the mysterious leader of a martial arts cult feared across the land, also known as the Sun Moon Sect or Ming Cult. Later, their carriage stopped at a mountain cliff. The old man said he would remember Ilmok's name. As Ilmok stepped outside, the boy was found but couldn't speak a word. As he stood there, everyone greeted the Lord of 10,000 Demons, acknowledging him as the great and even heavenly demon. They walked past him with an air of reverence, and he couldn't help but think that the old man was indeed the leader of a cult. Sweat dripped down his face as he realized he was in the presence of someone so powerful. When the old man opened the door, he explained that they were in a place called Pungam Hall. If the boy became a disciple, this would be where he would live until he mastered his training. The old man asserted that he would personally investigate the one who had sent assassins to the guest house and would keep the boy informed about it. The boy felt puzzled, contemplating how a man like a father to him had died because of it, and he was overwhelmed with grief. With a heavy breath, the old man told him that regardless of whether the boy chose to become his disciple, he would help him in the name of the heavenly demon, as it was his responsibility. The boy quickly bowed and thanked the master, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over him. The old man smiled and remarked that he must have already made the decision to accept him as his master. The boy confirmed, saying, "Yes, master," recognizing that he had no other choice but to stay here. The old man noted that it was a good decision, explaining that he was responsible for taking care of all the beings of the divine. As the boy stared at him, the old man further mentioned that from that day forward, he would be assigned an attendant who would serve as his guard and help him learn the ways of the heavenly demon divine cult. The boy expressed more gratitude, thanking the master for the opportunity. Suddenly, he noticed a girl standing in front of the old man. He remarked to himself that her actions were indeed impressive and realized that she would be the attendant taking care of him. The girl bowed and introduced herself as Jin Haeyin, stating that she would be responsible for his food, clothing, and shelter. As he looked at her, he couldn't hold back a smile. He thought amusing that his body was of a 15-year-old despite having lived more than 30 years in his previous life. She called him young master, and he was amused at the thought. Haeyin mentioned that he would need to prepare for admission into the Hall of the Demonic Way, which piqued his interest. He paused for a moment, wondering what the Hall of Demons was. He later learned that the Hall of Demons was the highest educational institute where exceptional 16-year-old members were invited, and all the executives of the cult had passed through that place. He contemplated how difficult this all sounded, realizing that he would need to manage everything as his master had advised. Just then, he sensed something off about her. She began to exude a dangerous aura, and he noted a chill in the air around her. She assured him that she was committed to making him the strongest. The scene shifted to the afternoon, where another girl was seen training someone. She reprimanded the boy for being too quiet and encouraged him to count out loud as he trained under the weight of stones. His hands trembled from the rigorous training, and she noticed his arms were not straight. She commanded him to correct his posture while another boy struggled to complete push-ups with a heavy boulder on his back. Exhausted, he fell to the ground, unable to continue. The girl scolded him for his failure, insisting he get up and start again. He protested, declaring that he couldn't do it anymore, feeling completely spent. Approaching him, she asked if someone was threatening him to undergo this training, noting that he was the one who chose the divine cult. Placing a hand on his shoulder, she tried to motivate him, saying he needed to endure with all his strength. He looked at her incredulously, feeling she didn't understand that he had been forced into this situation. Her initial surprise turned to concern when he fainted, collapsing onto her shoulders. She picked him up, noting that he seemed to be overexerting himself. Commenting on his talent, she wondered how someone with no prior martial arts training could keep up. She saw this as a sign that he possessed the gift of heaven and smiled slightly, pondering who he might be. Returning to their base, she sensed that something significant was about to unfold. That night, the boy woke up, disoriented and wondering where he was amidst another training regimen. He spotted the girl giving him a massage and found it hard to believe that she was attending to him in such an intimate manner. Startled, he slapped her hand away and turned to the corner to regain his composure. She explained that while he rested, she was performing a secret art, using her internal energy to ease his fatigue. He was incredulous, recalling his previous life where instructors had shown no care for their students, only wanting them to recover quickly to return to labor. Those painful memories haunted him. Upset, he shouted that he couldn't live like this, insisting that they needed to guarantee him at least one period of rest during each training session, as he was trying to maintain his work-life balance. The girl swiftly refuted his words, stating that it was impossible at present. She reminded him that he was only 15, and with just 1 year left until his admission into the Hall of the Demonic Way, there was no room for rest. He worried about the toll this would take on him, but she assured him that he was not weak enough to collapse from such training. Should he fail, she declared she would gladly follow him to his demise. He contemplated his own mortality, noting that if he became a spirit, he would continue to work tirelessly. The thought of her unwavering loyalty, even in death, was astounding. An idea sparked in his mind, and even though it was risky, he felt compelled to communicate his resolve. He told her that he understood her position and that there was no point in complaining anymore. Instead, he proposed that he would give it his all. The girl inquired about what he meant, and he boldly stated that he intended to disturb his master and get himself kicked out of it. Both of them stared at each other for a moment. The boy thought he must have said something wrong, but the girl, wearing a scary expression, warned him that he would regret his decision. The boy firmly told her that he would not, stating that this was his final decision. Suddenly, the girl's expression became even more menacing as she claimed that any failure of his would reflect on his master for having an incompetent disciple, and that was none of her concern. With a chilling demeanor, she questioned whether he thought she would just stand by and watch that happen. The boy hesitantly asked what she intended to do. Was she going to kill him? In an instant, she leaped towards him with alarming speed, her eyes flashing red, which took him aback. She grabbed his shirt and then seized his neck, telling him that if he ever attempted to abandon his training, she wouldn't spare him. She asserted that if anything threatened the heavenly demon, she would deal with it herself. As she applied pressure on his neck, she warned that those who don't obey are called demons, but she didn't care about that label. With a terrifying smile, she claimed she would gladly take his life and grant him peace if he stepped out of line. Pushed against the wall, he realized he might have given her a reason to become a real demon. While making his posture, he acknowledged her intimidating presence. Once she collected herself, she flashed a creepy smile and remarked that the person she thought was just picking a fight was, in fact, someone who might endanger their own disciple. Feeling ashamed, she bowed her head, and he noted that his only achievement was being a disciple, which was why he tried not to get in their way. Yet, instead of taking advantage of the situation, they had created a dramatic scene. The girl wondered what her master was thinking and began to comprehend his intentions. The boy coughed and said that he would train but had some demands. She listened carefully as he raised 2 fingers, stating there were only 2 things he wanted. His first request was to have a quarter of an hour to rest after each training session and an additional 2 hours of recuperation afterward. His second request was to ensure he had a period of 3 to 2.5 hours of sleep each night. He thought she wouldn't agree, but quickly became serious and insisted on more. Reassured that if they could meet these demands, he would train diligently and didn't want to be a burden on his master. The girl expressed hope that he would keep his word and work hard in training. Then she instructed him to lie down as she continued his massage. The next day during training, the heavenly demon noticed his hard work and smiled, commenting that it seemed like the boy had put in considerable effort as he collapsed on the floor afterward. The girl confirmed that it was all thanks to the young master's excellent concentration that he managed to train so effectively. While still lying on the floor, she noted that if they continued like this, they would enter the outer hours without issue. However, recalling a past incident, she mentioned that if they remained weak after this level of training for a year, that would be a real problem. She helped him get up, resting her shoulder beneath him, and declared that it was time to begin learning the demonic arts with the old man. Confused, the boy wondered what these demonic arts entailed and why the old man was the one teaching him. That night, he reflected that the term demon cult had no negative connotations. Rather, it was meant to protect humanity. He speculated that the demon art likely referred to a general term used for the martial arts of the heavenly demon cult, which was distinct from the evil martial arts he had encountered in his past life. Suddenly raising his hand, he asked if there were any side effects to the demonic arts. The old man reassured him that there were no issues, yet the boy felt his body shaking as he suspected there might still be some risks involved. The old man acknowledged that the potential risks were significant but expressed confidence that the boy would overcome them soon. He smiled at the old man's encouragement, and afterward, the girl brought him some clothes. The boy mentioned that if that were the case, he should be informed about the types of martial arts and their potential side effects in advance. The old man assured him he would explain everything to him eventually and urged him to listen carefully while he rested. The old man then began detailing the techniques. Firstly, he spoke of the exploding power technique, which would turn a person into a sword master with a destructive force to level mountains. However, he cautionarily noted that this technique had a side effect of anger management disorder. The second technique he described was Various Eye, which could freeze an entire area, but it had an instant effect of hypersexuality. The third technique was Soul Style, characterized by ever-changing movements that surpassed 24 stances. The side effect of this technique included auditory and visual hallucinations, classifying it as a potential mental illness. The boy couldn't believe that every technique came with its own side effects, and he asked the old man if he had mastered all three techniques. The old man confirmed that he had, prompting the boy to wonder how the elderly man managed such power. The girl reassured him that there was no need to worry about it. As they continued their conversation, the old man reminded the boy that the side effects of the art could be overcome, leaving the boy contemplating the implications of his new training journey. In the next scene, the young master began his training, which signified the first stage toward entering demonhood, marking the initial steps in learning the demonic arts. He felt a moment of fear wash over him as he recalled the second stage known as the Extreme Demon, where the side effects of the arts reached their peak. Finally, he considered the third stage. Once he broke free from the lingering effects of power, he would achieve peace, called the final stage of transcending demonhood. He'd raise his hand and ask a question, wanting to know what would happen if someone never reached the stage of transcending demonhood in their lifetime. The girl beside him placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder and replied that was exactly why he had been chosen. She reminded him of the test he underwent, determining whether his heart was pure enough to reach that high stage. This statement puzzled him further. What if he couldn't reach it at all? The old man interjected, stating that it was time for him to decide which martial art he would learn. Overwhelmed by the gravity of this decision, the boy replied hesitantly that he wished to learn the soul-stealing sword art. This art was characterized by continuous flowing movements designed to strip the soul from opponents, and by the evening, it would have gathered on the table. He recalled that its side effect was obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, a condition he thought he could handle at a moderate level. He chose this art, thinking about how it enhanced performance perfection and increased survival odds. While contemplating whether his plan would unfold as expected, the old man instructed him to start with some basic techniques, promising to teach him. He told the boy to watch carefully, prompting him to affirm that he would indeed pay close attention. The old man then pulled out his sword, demonstrating the soul-stealing draw, and advised him to pay attention, as these movements were integral for blocking an opponent's attack. The first step involved taking a step back with his right foot while simultaneously drawing the sword to align with the opponent's attack. When the old man asked if he understood, the boy replied affirmatively. Although the explanation sounded good, doing it was another matter. He struggled to draw the sword fully, realizing it was not just about the motion of his hand, but also involved the angle of the sword and the position of the scabbard. The old man guided him patiently, demonstrating the movement again. As the boy drew out his sword, the master complimented him, remarking that he had done well. Throughout the day, the boy learned new movements and techniques. After some practice, he felt a wave of fatigue and returned the sword to its scabbard. He reflected that perhaps his youth was an advantage. He was learning remarkably fast. The girl reminded him that it was time to heal. Raising her sword, she commanded him to use the soul-stealing draw to block her attack. The boy was shocked by her statement and felt a rush of fear. However, as he deflected her sword with his own, he found himself praised for his skill. The two exchanged blows, and he realized that he was blocking naturally, without strain. It seemed he was progressing rapidly, leading him to consider himself a genius. After a while, he sat heavily, and the master noted that he had sufficiently practiced the soul-stealing draw. The young master thanked him for the lessons, realizing that his body felt different now. He recalled the speed of the master's final attack. It was so swift he could scarcely follow with his eyes. This moment of focus ignited a determination within him, as he considered that his master would soon teach him the method of internal energy circulation. As they settled down, the old man placed a hand on the boy's back and explained that since he had started late, he would personally assist in circulating energy through his body. He infused some energy into his hands, informing the boy that his internal energy would now flow through his acupoints in alignment with the soul-stealing sword art. Suddenly, chakra moved around his belly and surged after a while from his back. This sensation was unlike anything he had ever experienced, incredibly different from what he imagined. It felt as if the chakra points and energy circulation were blending within him, opening inner gates. Together, they practiced this technique late into the night. Grateful for his master's guidance, the boy thanked him, realizing he had successfully memorized the flow of his internal energy. His body now overflowed with mana. The old man encouraged him that he had made excellent progress and stated that it was time for dinner. Since everyone had gathered at the main temple, it presented a perfect opportunity for a meal between master and disciple. The boy responded that he would bathe first and would join the master for dinner afterward. The master then left, saying he would wait for him. As he prepared to head to the gathering with his master, he suddenly heard his assistant call from behind, offering to help him get ready. Curious, he asked her what kind of magic she had learned. She replied that it was the little frost demon art. He inquired about the frost art and whether it was the reason she felt so chilly. Serious, she responded affirmatively, prompting him to turn back and think, what the hell was that? He began to suspect it might be a side effect of her martial art. She glanced at him with puzzled eyes but remained silent, leaving him to ponder the implications of their conversation. In the next scene, while the boy was taking a bath, she was rubbing his back. He thought that he was starting to get used to her, but he struggled to function properly, especially with the knowledge of the little frost demon card's side effect, excessive lust. He imagined her doing something creepy if she were consumed by this side effect. Just then, she picked up a bucket of water, ready to pour it over him. With visible anger, she scolded him for being unaware that the side effect of the little frosty mini art affected them differently based on gender. Curious, he asked her what kind of side effects women experienced. She explained that for women, a man with strong energy significantly enhances their rationality, enabling them to think much more clearly than before. He questioned their awareness of these side effects while she continued to rub and dry him off. After a moment's thought, she noted that their ability to empathize and feel compassion vanished, essentially rendering them akin to psychopaths. As she cleaned his body, she remarked that the martial arts they practiced were meant to punish her, highlighting a secondary effect rather than a side effect. He understood this distinction and apologized for the misunderstanding. After some time, they both walked into another hall, where it became apparent that something crucial was about to unfold. According to her, he was now regarded as the heavenly demon's disciple. However, half of the disciples had died either entering the demon realm or clashing with orthodox sects. This left only 4 of them remaining, indicating a survival rate of about 50% for heavenly demon disciples. She informed him that survival would not be easy. Ilmuk arrived and greeted his master. The master called Ilmuk closer and instructed everyone to greet him properly, while the boy noted that Ilmuk had been in training for years. Beside him, another disciple laughed and expressed his gladness to meet his junior brother. His name was Jinhak, the eldest brother, martial arts master of the Blood Soul Sword, which had a side effect of uncontrollable rage. With a chuckle, he recounted how he had unleashed his fury against Central Plains martial artists and corrupt officers, earning the nickname Mad Demon. He managed to avoid the extreme demons, expressing his newfound confidence while his eyes glowed with a hint of bloodlust, suggesting that reaching that state was imminent. The boy greeted his brother, expressing gladness at the meeting, to which Jinhak responded affirmatively, jokingly striking him on the back. The atmosphere felt lively, and as they walked together, the boy pondered that his senior brother was closer to his age from his past life, making it easier to get along. However, a sudden sense of dread crossed his face when he greeted the third brother. This brother was scoffing down his food with incredible speed, a chopstick now embedded in the wall nearby. Jinhak scolded the brother for not acknowledging the boy properly again. The third brother, whose name was Siawantbion, had a martial art known as the Shadowless 14 Strikes, a swift and silent attack technique designed for assassination, but it came with the side effect of delusional paranoia. The problem was that he had already mastered the extreme demon level, which placed the boy in a precarious situation. Steve taunted him as he approached, playfully pointing a chopstick at the boy's throat. The insinuation was clear. Had he been praying for his funeral? The boy felt intimidated as he pretended to observe his elder brother training. Meanwhile, another brother laughed off the tension, suggesting that Sia was taking things too seriously. He advised him to rest and handed him a fresh pair of chopsticks, while the boy tried to process everything happening around him. He placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, and the boy took the opportunity to apologize for his ignorance regarding proper etiquette. Yet he couldn't help but notice an unsettling truth. Everyone here seemed a bit off, but only this new brother appeared somewhat normal. This sixth brother, Jong Richu, came across as the most trustworthy, at least in the boy's estimation. Jong Richu placed a hand on the boy's shoulder and insisted there was no time to dwell on past misunderstandings. He directed the boy to greet his fourth brother. However, the chair was empty. With a smile, Jong Richu remarked that the fourth brother was already too much in their thoughts. The boy observed carefully, realizing that the empty chair mirrored the absence of the fourth brother who had died in a fight against the orthodox sects. Remembering the fourth brother's martial art, Mading Soul, sent a tremor of fear down the boy's spine. John Richu called out again, insisting the boy should greet his fourth brother appropriately, causing him to tremble with apprehension. Hallucinations and echoes of voices haunted his mind. Suddenly, the eldest brother smiled mischievously, remarking that it appeared that the sixth brother was keeping the childhood memories alive. Shocked, both John Richu and the boy stared, while the master commented on the heartwarming sight of the brothers caring for one another. As this unfolded, the boy grappled with the notion that such warmth felt more like a prelude to disaster, leaving him apprehensive about the upcoming dinner and his place among these unpredictable siblings. In the next scene, as he sat in his chair, his stomach growled unpleasantly. He was starving after a long day of training, and the delay in dinner was due to it being a company dinner. While he attempted to pick something from the table, his older brother remarked that there was no issue in the blissful demon area and suggested they could just eat now. The older brother noted that the youngest brother must be curious about their conversation. Surprised by the intrusion, he listened attentively. He understood that the matter was significant, and since they would all eventually have to take part, he focused intently on the discussion. The master had spoken about how heavenly demons periodically conducted inspections across the land. During the last inspection, while the master was at a guest house, something had caught his interest, which had posed an unforeseen variable. For his safety, the master had no choice but to return early to their stronghold. Both brothers had received reports from disciples who had completed the inspections and were now being introduced to their senior brothers and master. His older brother questioned what he was thinking during the deliberation, prompting the boy to express confusion about the master's request for his opinion on their discussions regarding the inspections. The master had mentioned that since he had come from outside, he might have a unique perspective and could offer suggestions for potential improvements. Everyone in the room fell silent, and the boy felt a wave of fear wash over him at the thought of speaking before his senior brother and the followers of the demon cult. He was painfully aware that their ultimate goal was to ascend to the demon throne, and they would not hesitate to wield their power. While they focused on fighting among themselves, all he truly cared about was enjoying life and being comfortable, particularly while looking after people like her. It became clear to him that he could not simply stand by and watch, and he realized that he had to step up starting from that moment. Ideating the role he needed to play, he recalled the image of Miss Jin forcefully putting an apple in his mouth. He thought he needed to become a middle manager, just as he had in his previous life. Somebody sharp enough to navigate the intricacies without being outstanding or overly passionate, just an average rookie bursting with determination. He understood that it was no secret that those who work hard often did not achieve significant results. Those who made minimal effort could create a greater outcome. Mastering his thoughts, he suggested that the first responsibility lay in establishing a strict reporting system alongside standardized report formats. Higher-ups should review the reports while subordinates adhered to them, thus allowing senior brothers to avoid unnecessary running around. His brothers listened intently as he spoke. Next, he proposed that duties should be divided into specialized tasks and disciples should rotate among regions or departments from time to time. His older brother absorbed this while the third, equally focused, made a remark about the risks associated with assigning tasks for too long, which could invite corruption and collusion with local powers. The master contemplated this seriously. He acknowledged that as long as they had a solid reporting structure and templates, they could assign duties without issue. Smiling, he noted that departmental transfers would hardly be a challenge. This system would effectively address each other's weaknesses, creating a well-functioning operation. However, the boy suddenly realized he had made a mistake. By establishing department duties and creating a plethora of reports, he was inadvertently shrinking responsibilities and setting the stage for delays where reports would simply serve as excuses to evade accountability and shift blame. He recalled a past incident where everyone involved had made excuses, leaving a rookie to deal with the mess left behind. He thought his ideas could help, but suddenly another brother entered, reminding him that he needed to distinguish between reality and imagination. The boy turned, startled, as his brother raised his hand. He claimed he was willing to take a punch or two for the lesson, chuckling as he patted the boy on the head, remarking that the youngest brother was sharp. The boy couldn't believe what he had just heard. His brother mentioned that a system mindful of their cult's doctrine was not a bad idea, and corruption would be minimized with the right people in charge. The master acknowledged that this was an excellent plan, noting how the side effects of the soul-sealing swords were already surfacing. He assessed that even with only a day of martial arts training, their intellect and insights were impressive. The brothers planned to reconvene later to discuss everything further. After a hearty meal the following morning, the boy reflected on the importance of a well-functioning system and felt it was madness for the heavenly demon to give an order so casually. His assistant poured water as he sipped from his cup, thinking he had overestimated the gravity of his situation, deeming it a fatal mistake. The girl reminded him that he had to return before external training began. As he stepped out, he felt burdened with work rather than training, questioning when he would be able to rest. On his way, he wished for someone to help ease his load when he noticed a girl standing by the riverside. Turning toward him, she was adorned with floral hairpins and dressed in red, her beautiful face puzzled as she looked at him. He reflected on the fact that he was 3 times older than her and considered himself not the type to be swayed by the presence of a cute child. However, he noted that the girl seemed frightened and realized that this was not the right time to appear carefree. Determined to come across as a mature man, he approached her with a smile, asking, "Little lady, what are you doing here?" The girl, deep in thought, pointed to something lying on a river stone, revealing that she had left her doll behind. He reassured her that she no longer needed to worry and that she could trust him. As he moved to retrieve the doll, she called out to him, saying there was something else. Unfortunately, he slipped and fell into the river, emerging soaked. Despite this, she appeared happy now, and as he tried to act cool, he couldn't help but laugh at his predicament. "Thank you for saving my doll," she exclaimed, patting him on the head. "It was nothing," he replied modestly. Curious, he asked her what she was doing by the river. She explained that she was playing since no one at home played with her. Feeling a sense of camaraderie, he said that his situation was quite similar to hers. He introduced himself as Ilmuk and asked for her name. She replied, "My name is Sian." He suggested that they should meet again the following day, a proposal that confused her. However, he insisted they could gather after lunch to play together. She thought about how she had lost her doll and smiled, recognizing his invitation as a promise. "Yes, it's a promise," she replied, and they sealed it with a pinky promise, their little fingers entwined. As they shared their moment, his assistant observed that he had been in a good mood for the past few days and had been training hard. She inquired if something significant had happened recently. Placing his heavy weights down, he explained that his studies were progressing quickly. Trying to sound proud, he commented that it seemed he might finish his studies in medicine within half a year. She accepted this with a smile, believing he was telling the truth. However, he realized that he had inadvertently applied a lie when he hadn't intended to. If she knew he was spending his time playing with Sian every day, she would likely prevent him from seeing her again. He worried that once his training was over, his happy life would come to an end. He was determined to protect Sian's bright smile at any cost. Suddenly, someone entered the room and both of them turned to see who it was. It was the master, and they both greeted him respectfully. The master acknowledged that his earlier opinion was excellent, but noted that it was disconnected from the realities of the cult's operations. He advised the boy to take a tour of the cult himself and to propose a plan for improvement later. The master warned that no matter how good his progress was, taking too much time would lead to a futile effort, comparing it to putting the cart before the horse and ending up working like a donkey without a clear path. Amused, he laughed as he thought that it would be best for him to depart the next day. His assistant smiled at this, but the master then added that if she accompanied him, she could help with his training, ensuring he wouldn't fall behind. Looking at the sky, he felt burdened by the sudden influx of work placed on his shoulders. All he wanted was to spend time playing with Sian, but now he had to prepare for a journey instead. Nearby, Sian's teacher interrupted her thoughts, asking what she was doing. The teacher commented that she did not seem as focused as before. Sian stood quietly, insisting there was nothing wrong and that she would focus. Returning to her martial arts training, she struck at a spare piece of wood with considerable force, yet her teacher noticed her lack of concentration and questioned her. Ultimately, Sian dismissed the concern, telling her teacher it was nothing and encouraging her to continue until she returned. Gloom settled on her face as she pondered why she was practicing in such a small village. As she stepped out, the thought struck her. It was crucial for her not to break custom without sufficient reason, placing a hand on her forehead in frustration. Inside her training room, she practiced with great intensity, employing her techniques until she shattered the spare wood. Yet her thoughts remained focused on Ilmuk, silently determined to keep their connection strong. As they made their way, his assistant carried a significant amount of work on her back. He never anticipated that they would soon be apart, especially considering they had only just met. Meanwhile, Sian sat quietly on the riverbank, her mind consumed with thoughts of him. If only he had known her family name, he could have sent her a final message. Clutching his face in frustration, he assured himself that he would return soon and mentally urged her to wait for him. Suddenly, their thoughts were interrupted by someone introducing himself as Jang, assigned to protect the young master. Another member, Guan, introduced himself as well. They all greeted one another, and the boy politely acknowledged them, requesting their assistance. He hadn't realized that the guards were specially assigned by his master, which indicated that the master would not be accompanying them. As they packed their belongings into the carriage, he thought about buying a gift for Sian. Struggling to consider what children in the martial arts world like, he found himself at a loss. Just then, he was stopped by his assistant, who said he couldn't enter the carriage. Disbelieving her words, he asked what she meant. She explained that he would have to run the entire way, and before he could respond, the carriage began to move, leaving him behind. He started running to catch up with it, questioning her intentions as she revealed that this was part of their training. The two men riding in the carriage were unaware of the training regime dictated by his master. While he ran, she commented on his posture, claiming it was awkward, and instructed him to concentrate. Defiantly, he insisted that no matter how difficult the situation, his movements must remain coordinated. Watching him carefully, she said she would allow him a break when they were practicing energy circulation and breathing. Nevertheless, he felt fatigue overwhelming him as the day progressed. By the time they reached their destination, a country called Kuch, he collapsed onto the ground. His assistant stepped out of the carriage, asking if he could rest now. Inside the carriage, he attempted to cultivate, but no matter how much he trained, the unstable environment made it challenging to calm his mind and center his energy. Seeing his exhaustion, she picked him up onto her shoulders, telling him he had worked hard and deserved a rest. She would prepare a bath and press his healing points. He noted her kindness but also recognized that today's study would continue an hour later, which caused his face to fall. He felt as if he were carrying the weight of the world. The following day, while they were traveling through the city as a group, he thought that the time spent exploring the village was genuinely revitalizing. He began to reminisce about Xian. However, he realized that speaking about her could only increase his workload, so he decided to tread carefully. Noticing his improved mood, his assistant approached him, asking if he liked the place. He replied that it was a nice neighborhood and inquired about the members stationed there. She explained that their primary role was to suppress bandits and mountain thieves. However, given that this was the headquarters' main area, they hardly faced any threats from bandits, which allowed them to focus on miscellaneous tasks. As they sat on a bench, he picked up a snack to eat. Suddenly, a man stood up, announcing that they needed to adhere to their schedule for the following day. He asked what the schedule was, and she informed him that it involved finding improvement plans and observing the entire region. He couldn't believe that their next destination was another country, realizing that the village was over 1,000 kilometers away. He expressed concern about whether he could run that far, insisting it wasn't a good idea. She merely coughed and suggested they stay focused. His assistant then asked what sort of plan he had in mind. Surrounded by such inquiries, he instructed her to bring him ink and paper to write something down. Sitting down, he picked up the brush, pondering the circumstances at hand as he wrote. His assistant stood by him, diligently listening to everything he had to say. He resolved to establish clear standards, believing such structure would facilitate their progress. Meanwhile, outside, a discussion unfolded among the three men about the young master's excellent strategy, noting that despite his preoccupation with the strategies, he demonstrated a remarkable capacity for intelligence. They debated the notion that having a multitude of opinions was not inherently beneficial. Rather, to be effective, those opinions must be genuinely constructive. One of the men countered that he was being too picky, but he defended his position, insisting he was only speaking the truth. His assistant, still present, expressed her agreement, stating that while many options may seem appealing, her master was different. The other man remarked on how deeply she believed in him. Smiling, she asserted that when it came to work for the sake of efficiency, her master performed best, claiming no one could outshine him. The next day, as they traveled, his assistant read through the plan documents. She concluded that it was an excellent plan, one that would allow them to return to the main headquarters with satisfaction, even in the eyes of the demons. Meanwhile, the boy remained inside, focusing on cultivating and ore farming. Suddenly, he opened his eyes in shock, contemplating whether this could be a side effect of the soul-stealing emotionless sword, dismissing the thought as something that couldn't possibly be happening. He realized that the main target of his plan involved children, and they required careful management, especially since it could also affect Xian. Noticing his unusual demeanor, his assistant approached him, advising him not to move too far from the door. She detected something alarming. A group of bandits was approaching them, charging forward with intentions to rob. It appeared the bandits operated with a level of unity. Many seemed to have a military background. The two of them ordered the escort warriors to prepare for a swift confrontation, planning to eliminate the bandits all at once. His assistant suggested they quietly observe the unfolding situation. However, the young master had a different idea, smiling confidently, as they were surrounded by bandits with threats of killing men and selling women into slavery. When one bandit struck him on the head, he retaliated, claiming they weren't there by choice and had merely intended to acquire property, not lives. The older bandit agreed, stating they did not want unnecessary bloodshed, but it was too late for regrets. Suddenly, two men from the carriage jumped out and rushed towards them. In an instant, the boy closed the distance between himself and the oldest bandit, drawing his weapon. Just before he could bring it down upon the old man's head, the young master shouted for him not to kill the man. The blade halted mid-air, causing the bandit to tremble in fear, calling out to the young boy as Big Brother. His assistant questioned his interference as the scene played out. In no time, everyone had been subdued without any weapons, simply rendered unconscious. The girl noted that they could have defeated the bandits easily without using excessive force. She was instructed to observe quietly as the old bandit lay unconscious, while the young master commented that these people would become essential to his plan. Later that night, as the old man regained consciousness, he realized his body was unresponsive and suspected someone had applied pressure points. The boy approached him, expressing pleasure that he had finally woken up and introducing himself as Ilmok. The old man inquired how he knew his name, to which Ilmok explained that discovering the name had been quite a task, and he had merely asked around. Observing the old man's weary but strong-looking subordinates alongside beautiful women and food, Ilmok noted they seemed ready to share everything. The old man could hardly believe what he was hearing as the young boy continued, remarking on the tragic nature of his life, a much younger boy now considering him as superior simply because he hailed from a royal family. He referred to the old man's narrow escape from execution and his subsequent refuge in sect territory, which he emphasized could lead to rejection due to his military background. The old man asked Ilmok what he was trying to imply with all this talk. With a smile, Ilmok proposed that the old man consider working for the demon cult. He assured him that though he appeared weak, he was a significant part of the clan. The old man found it hard to believe such an offer was being made, questioning what benefits they could gain from this arrangement. Ilmok explained that if the old man were to accept the work, he would forget the crimes of robbery. and could help transport refugees into the demon cult's fold, signifying it was essential to support those subordinates who risked their lives for him. The old man pondered for a moment, intrigued, and asked what Ilmok had seen in him to make such a proposal without fear of betrayal. With a slight smile, Ilmok indicated that the old man's subordinates seemed somewhat naive, easily manipulated by beautiful women and food, suggesting they didn't follow an evil path. Realizing all the puzzle pieces were falling into place, Ilmok saw an opportunity to initiate significant change, proposing the operation of schools to combat the bandits. He suggested reducing their numbers while providing children with elements of education, ensuring they learned both writing and doctrine. In doing so, they would naturally grow stronger and more capable. As the old man considered the proposal, he found it quite exceptional, remarking that it was a perfect plan utilizing the side effect of the soul-stealing, emotionless sword with no apparent consequences. While the young boy was uncertain of what side effect could mean, a woman in the room interjected, explaining that he might not grasp that part yet. Ilmok proposed teaching martial arts in schools, effectively transforming martial arts training into physical education, which could benefit the cult in the future. In Chapter 10, the boy considered whether they should teach the children the demonic arts. He believed that while the side effects of these arts could possibly be managed, instilling a strong character was more important. If the children's characters were not upright, it could cause them significant harm in the future. He explained that rather than focusing on the demonic arts, they should teach children basic martial arts and external skills. An old man interjected, suggesting that the boy intended to select only exceptional children to learn the demonic arts. The boy acknowledged this point, affirming that even if the children could not master the demonic arts, learning basic martial arts would still be invaluable. He argued that children who engage in martial arts would become a source of strength for their community. Furthermore, he proposed that the bandits they had recruited could assist in teaching the children these basic skills, as their military training had equipped them with valuable martial arts knowledge that came without the negative side effects associated with demonic arts. The boy quietly observed the discussion unfolding around him, contemplating the potential for utilizing the willing refugees who could easily be trained in basic martial arts. He believed that doing so would be advantageous for both the recruits and the children. The old man expressed that he had conducted considerable research on the topic and that the boy's contributions were significant. He then encouraged the boy to name the school they envisioned. Inspired by modern educational concepts merging martial arts with character development, the boy suggested naming the school Taijin Dojang, after a martial arts academy from his past life. Following the discussion, he headed to his room, where he lay on his bed reflecting on the hectic day. Just then, his assistant entered and informed him that today's studies would be postponed. She asked if he wanted to study before sleeping, but the boy declined, preferring to rest instead. Understanding his decision, the assistant wished him a good night's sleep as she left. After a moment of peace, someone entered his room, prompting the boy to pull out a small box containing a secret gift he had prepared, hoping to win Sin Chan's forgiveness. However, seeing a man standing before him startled him. It was his brother, an assassin, who explained that he had many guards around him because they feared he might harm someone. He had sought out the boy without their knowledge. Leaning in, the brother expressed his admiration, stating that the master was proud of the boy's achievements and the report on the academy's plans. His words carried a hint of jealousy, prompting him to question why the boy was so different from him. The boy reassured him that he admired his older brother, insisting that he should not speak so negatively about himself. This comment momentarily took the older brother by surprise, making him wonder how a junior disciple could respect him so deeply. The boy clarified that the recipient of the hairpin was merely a younger sisterly figure, to which his brother scoffed that people like him were popular. When the brother tried to reclaim the hairpin, he recalled how the master often praised the third senior disciple, whose assassination techniques were unmatched. The boy noted that the master frequently compared him favorably to that disciple, making his brother ponder if the boy was being truthful. In that moment, a fly interrupted their conversation, and the brother, with a swift motion, demonstrated a technique by slicing it in mid-air, claiming it as an example of his skills. After sheathing his sword, the brother suggested that the boy should reflect on the senior disciple's techniques and strive to refine his sword skills. The boy agreed, expressing his commitment as the older brother prepared to leave. Before departing, he remarked that junior disciples should enjoy their time training. The boy encouraged him to visit more often, jokingly suggesting he might need to change his clothes on the way back. The following day, the boy decided to take a walk to digest his meal while eagerly anticipating seeing Sin Chan again. However, she called out to him, asking him to wait. She approached him and explained that she had missed their studies the previous day and was trying to find time to catch him up, emphasizing that his progress was more important than her own schedule. Although he wanted to meet someone else, he refrained from disclosing that information. When she noted that perhaps there was another reason behind his reluctance to study, he hesitated, ultimately claiming there was no other reason aside from feeling drowsy after eating outside the castle. Sin Chan stood there, observing the exchange. In Chapter 11, as the study session began, the boy struggled to stay awake, his eyes drooping as he barely focused on the material. His assistant noticed his fatigue and suggested it might be due to post-meal drowsiness. He agreed but added that it was mostly because of the events with the third senior disciple the previous night, though he chose not to mention this aloud. Getting up from his seat, He said he needed to freshen up, and his assistant replied that she would wait for him as he exited the room. Yawning, the boy reflected on the antics of the senior disciples and wondered if they were merely flattering him to survive. While it was fine, he thought it was unreasonable to expect them to respect his sleep time, especially from the members of the cult. Meanwhile, Xin-Chan stood at his door. Her expression darkened as she asked what he was doing there and why her hair was red. Calling him Big Brother shocked him, and he approached her to inquire what had happened, wondering if it was really okay for her to be out in the rain, as their mother would scold her for being late. Xian-Chan grabbed his hand tightly, expressing her hurt and asking why he had abandoned her. The emptiness in her eyes was unsettling as she continued to question why he hadn't come to play with her like they had promised. The boy attempted to reassure her, but she insisted that as the disciple of the exalted heavenly demon, she understood everything. Pulling him closer, she declared that they would eat, sleep, and play together in their family residence. The boy tried to calm her down, but she seemed resolute, stating she would take responsibility for everything regarding her big brother. It was in that moment that the truth he had been trying to ignore struck him. Xian-Chan was also a devoted member of the cult who had learned demonic arts. Their conversation was abruptly interrupted when his assistant arrived, taking note of the awkward position they were in. She asked why they were like that and who Xian-Chan was. Suddenly, Xian-Chan reacted defensively, exclaiming that she would not allow anyone to interfere with her big brother. She charged at the assistant with a fierce determination, claiming she would kill her for interrupting them. The boy rushed to stop them, insisting they shouldn't hurt each other. Xian-Chan, using her demonic arts, unleashed sharp energy at the assistant, who was forced to defend herself. The assistant observed the chaotic scene and reported that the young boy was fine, but more importantly, she questioned what was happening with Xian-Chan. She explained that she had temporarily slowed Xian-Chan's movements with her yin energy, but hadn't struck any pressure points, so Xian-Chan would regain her mobility soon. Ignoring the advice, Xian-Chan continued her onslaught, landing a deep cut on the boy's shoulder that made him bleed. Xian-Chan frantically demanded to know why her big brother was protecting the assistant, urging him to step aside. In a rage, she screamed that if he was there, she wouldn't be able to kill the girl. Her hands trembled with adrenaline and her eyes glowed red as she stated that if she couldn't have the boy, then she didn't need a brother like him. Desperate to cool her fury, he pulled her into a tight hug, apologizing for disappearing without a word. He explained that the mission given to him by the master had been urgent, leaving him no time to inform her. Slowly, Xian-Chan began to calm down as she understood that her meeting with him had to be kept secret from everyone. If he had confessed this earlier, she wouldn't have felt such anguish. As the reality of her actions hit him alongside the pain in his shoulder, he admitted that he felt selfish for thinking the time they spent together might get interrupted. He expressed deep remorse, recognizing it as his fault. The assistant watched their exchange, moved by Xian-Chan's cries. Xian-Chan reassured him that she didn't hate him. She was merely scared of losing him. He hugged her tightly, trying to soothe her fears about the injury on his shoulder, explaining that it was minor and didn't hurt much. The assistant, observing the interaction, commented on how close the boy had become to a member of the Yahello family. Curiously, he asked Xian-Chan how she knew about the Yahello family. Xian-Chan, through her tears, revealed that she was the only granddaughter of the family. Noting the boy's reaction, she sensed that he was unaware of their family's customs. When he questioned what customs she was referring to, Xian-Chan's teacher approached, flanked by 3 other girls. The teacher looked tense and explained that she had been searching for Xian-Chan everywhere, assuring that she would explain everything in detail later. As everything settled and his assistant dressed him up, he asked who the people were, and she replied that they were from the Yahello family standing in front of Manhwa. She then revealed that she was the mother of Xian and also her teacher. Observing closely, he noticed that Hafiz was angry, and it appeared she was mad as well. He watched her intently as she expressed her anger, questioning whether she must be very upset with her daughter, tears welling in her eyes. Trying to comfort her, he assured her that his big brother would take care of the situation and would talk to her mother nicely. He urged her to wait for a moment, and she agreed, though his assistant interjected, asking him what he planned to do. Despite seeming lost in thought, he had an idea and suggested that they should meet with her first. He approached her, acknowledging that it must have been difficult for her to look for her daughter. He politely greeted her, introducing himself as Ilmak, the 8th disciple of the exalted heavenly demon, noting that they were meeting for the first time. He asked if she was indeed looking for Xian. However, before he could continue, she stated that she wanted to question him first about the purpose of the 8th prince. Her inquiry puzzled him. He expressed confusion, insisting that he did not understand what she meant. She frowned at his response, accusing him of pretending ignorance and asserting that he must have come to seek out the 8th prince himself, which implied prior knowledge of each other. Leaning closer to him with anger evident in her voice, she said it didn't mean they had broken the custom with ulterior motives. In retaliation, he refuted her claim, insisting he had simply met her by chance and had formed a friendship with her. Her anger flared as she questioned how he could expect her to believe such a lie. He shouted back that whether she believed it or not, that was the truth. She probed further into the customs they were discussing. Upon her silence, she finally acknowledged that there was supposed to be someone responsible for education, but it seemed he hadn't learned about this matter. His assistant quickly apologized, asserting it was a misunderstanding on the girl's part. She defended him, explaining that he had been preparing for the Demonic Arts Academy and had received education on the entrance exam content. As they spoke, someone interrupted them. Turning around, Ilmok saw Sion standing there, suggesting that it might be difficult to speak in front of her and proposed they discuss things separately inside. Meanwhile, his assistant appeared bored by the tension between them. Ilmok asked her about the customs, seeking clarification on what they entailed. She explained that girls from their family learned blood tiger, a form of extreme obsession art from a young age, highlighting the side effects of demonic arts, which included excessive symptoms. He felt captivated by her statements as she went on. She clarified that the custom prohibited all contacts until a child became obsessed with a specific object, aimed at preventing complications due to the potential turmoil of infatuation. She expressed fear for Siam and underlined the necessity of that custom, stating that the world was not as simple as it seemed, especially for members of the Heavenly Demon's family. Their obsession, she warned, could lead to madness if the target of that obsession died. In the past, there had been external forces seeking to exploit these side effects by directing obsessions towards specific people or threatening those involved. This had led to efforts to control the family from the shadows, all to protect her. She believed that silently adhering to the custom was the right approach. As she finished speaking and stared at him, he clenched his fists tightly, feeling the weight of her words. She declared that since he seemed to understand now, it was time to leave. As they parted ways, she assumed that a farewell greeting wouldn't be necessary and started to walk away, but Ilmok quietly bid her goodbye. His assistant observed the exchange keenly. Suddenly, Ilmok spoke up, questioning if she had finished making excuses. She turned to him, incredulous at his comment. She must have misheard, he stammered, nervously suggesting an apology may serve as a means to save face for both of them. However, anger surged within him as he demanded to know why she mistreated Sion. He accused her of using tradition as a justification for learning demonic arts while withholding parental affection due to those very arts. She stood abruptly, shouting that he had no right to lecture her, especially as someone new to the sect. Tears welled in her eyes as she implored him to understand the pain shared by others when they turned away from a child. He admitted he did not know what they felt, but he firmly believed the entire situation was a result of their failures in faith. Her anger flared anew as energy began to flow within her hands, and she confronted him without hesitation. Just then, their master appeared before Ilmok, protecting him from her impending attack. Trembling with fear, she immediately greeted the master, startled by his sudden intervention. He explained his rush was caused by worries about Ilmok being late for his training, but they found themselves entangled in a different situation. The master was clearly perturbed and wanted to address the issues at hand. He turned his gaze to Ilmok, questioning how he could accuse them of lacking faith in the heavenly demon cult. The atmosphere thickened as his eyes turned red and tension mounted, signaling the possibility of severe consequences ahead. As the girl cried outside, her sobs heavy and filled with despair, it seemed as though her life was doomed. Suddenly, a sound like a distant clash echoed from within the castle. Inside, the room was in disarray with items scattered everywhere. The master stood at the center, addressing his assistant, who seemed overwhelmed while the lady continued to express her distress. The master probed into the meaning behind his earlier words regarding a lack of faith, standing frozen in place, clearly scared of the repercussions. He asserted that the side effects of all demonic arts could be overcome. His master, early in his studies of demonic arts, had walked away, claiming that current customs indicated the opposite. Meanwhile, Sion, eavesdropping from behind the door, overheard them discussing a lack of faith within their sect, which wasn't what the assistant had expected. The master approached the lady, emphasizing that the faith he spoke of was the devotion towards their daughter. He urged her to have a little more faith in Sion, for she was still young and not foolish or weak. He believed she could undoubtedly overcome the side effects of the Blood Tiger's extreme obsession art. He reached out, reassuringly asking if she believed that he wished for something else. Shamed, the lady closed her eyes and pondered how he could have such unwavering faith in Sion. The assistant was struck by her words and replied that it was precisely because he was once a child and he felt proud of Sion and her lineage. As Sion stood there listening, her face darkened with uncertainty, unable to retaliate. When the door opened, her mother noticed her presence and ordered her to return home, but Sion insisted she had something to say. Her mother pressed her, asking if she truly wanted to come back. Clenching her fists, Sion asserted her determination to return and become someone worthy of their family. Her mother sighed, reminding her about the importance of her studies in addition to training. Sion's face brightened with joy as she promised to consume all her mother's side dishes and train harder. They both departed for their home, their spirits lifted. Back inside the castle, a boy prepared himself for the upcoming training session as his assistant tidied the room. The master mused that it seemed the Hayokrian child had already developed an obsession with him, and that today had only resulted in minor injuries, yet those side effects could pose significant danger. The boy, taken aback by this statement since he had been injured by Sion, tied back his hair and replied to the master's inquiries about managing that child. He assured his master that she would never harm him again. As her big brother, it was his duty to endure it with a smile. The master acknowledged that he should document this encounter in his own words, remarking on the boy's mysterious nature. They engaged in conversation about the recent developments with the Hayokrian family, which could potentially turn into allies if everything proceeded smoothly. Several days later, during a brief respite after training, Sion added weights to her usual stones. Thankfully, with no ongoing conflicts with the Hayokrian family, she suddenly called out, "Big brother," and hugged him playfully, expressing her joy. Her assistant observed their playful interaction, patting the boy's head with fondness. The assistant noted that their master might visit them later to inquire about Xian's studies. She beamed, confirming that she had diligently completed her lessons. Despite the dark nature of their circumstances, she believed strongly that while this was a demonic setting that permitted certain behaviors, child abuse crossed a line. Xian demonstrated new moves she had learned during her training, believing that even if she could not achieve healing, she would undoubtedly grow powerful. She asked her big brother about his day, and he revealed that he had forgotten to present her with a gift he had purchased on the master's orders, a beautiful hairpin. Mesmerized by its elegance, Xian gasped, suddenly realizing the significance of the gift from her brother. "I'll treasure it," she vowed, ensuring it would remain intact and only be used on special occasions. As they continued their exchanges, the assistant observed how well Xian was managing her side effects and stable development. Suddenly, a summons arrived from their elder brother, Su Jin. Amok, their elder brother, greeted them respectfully and explained that he had come to seek their assistance. He felt overwhelmed with personal issues related to the dragon unit and hoped to enlist the wisdom of his intelligent youngest junior disciple. The boy listened with concern, understanding that refusing the request could lead to further chaos and fury. Inquiring about the nature of his brother's worries, the boy encouraged him to speak freely. Despite feeling unsure, Su Jin indicated that selecting individuals for their team should not be a simple task. It involves choosing the wisest leader for the Red Dragon unit who can serve as his right hand, he explained with gravity. The boy nodded, relieved that his elder brother appeared calm and composed, allowing them to navigate the situation effectively. Just then, Su Jin noticed Xian, especially as she had regularly visited and received the gift. Curiously, he reached for the box containing the hairpin, announcing he would open it for her. Watching nervously, Xian warned him to be gentle, fearing it might break. However, with his heavy-handed approach, the box shattered, leaving Xian shocked as the incident unfolded before her eyes. As the scene unfolded, Xian furiously exclaimed how dare her elder brother destroy the precious gift he had given her. He quickly covered her mouth, warning her to remain silent or he would become angry. The eldest brother insisted it was an accident, albeit an unfortunate one. Our boy, still holding Xian's mouth, assured her there was no need to worry and asked whether the hairpin remained undamaged. Relieved, he confirmed that it was still safe and gently returned it to her hands, urging her to stop crying. Xian picked it up and examined it closely, lamenting that the box it came in was also very precious to her, and that she would have cherished it. The eldest brother hugged her, trying to comfort her as everyone watched, noting how close their bond appeared. The assistant, sensing the awkward tension, attempted to calm the situation and suggested that the elders leave. The elder brother conceded, apologizing for the trouble his foolish actions had caused. He promised to visit again and reminded the boy to make time for him, to which he internally hoped they wouldn't have to endure another visit. Watching the scene, Xian glared at the eldest brother, her anger simmering. She realized that while he could manage his temper toward others, his anger was likely to explode when provoked, which made her feel safer. Inwardly, she labeled the eldest sibling an idiot, a thought that struck him with fury. Unaware, he tried to explain that such statements were inappropriate, admonishing her for speaking that way. Unfortunately for him, she had already voiced her thoughts, catching the eldest brother's attention with a menacing smile as he turned toward her. The assistant intervened, urging our boy to stop Xian before she could say anything further, but it was too late. As he began to cover her mouth, she blurted out, "The eldest brother is an idiot who can't even open a box." Everyone rushed to silence her, but the words had escaped, leaving all present frozen in shock. The atmosphere grew tense as fear gripped them. They turned to witness the eldest brother's reaction, which was not promising. His smile morphed into a furious expression, with his eyes glowing red as he clenched his fists in anger. Our boy thought about how it was acceptable for him to call himself stupid, but it was entirely different when someone else did. The unfairness of the situation filled him with dread. Ultimately, he hugged Xian tightly to protect her, but the eldest disciple's anger was still fixated on him. Despite Xian's resistance to leave her brother, he determined that they needed to manage the situation. "Our only solution is to evacuate her first," he suggested, trying to confront the eldest disciple with reason. The eldest brother suddenly seated himself, questioning what solution the boy had in mind. Observing the moment, the assistant took note of the Red Dragon unit's twice leadership promotion plan for the third squad leader, which he believed might be the best course of action due to the martial power of the members. Regardless, he sensed it was too late to recant his earlier disrespect towards Xian. The eldest brother contemplated the idea briefly, acknowledging that being the unit leader meant he didn't need to emphasize martial power. He decided to shift topics instead, recognizing that the third squad leader had demonstrated the best performance. Our boy thought this might calm the eldest brother, but instead he felt compelled to express that if he was stupid, then the clever squad leader should be promoted, a statement which only intensified the elder's fury. Now at the peak of his rage, realization hit him. They were in serious trouble. The eldest brother unleashed his demon art in fury, radiant red energy spiraling around him. Our boy understood that it was too late to evade the impending attack and prepared to block it, but knew he lacked the necessary power. He reached for his sword, desperate for it to respond quickly, but found his words powerless against the elder's wrath. The moment their blades connected, his sword shattered upon impact, causing him to cough up blood. Stunned, he reflected on the overwhelming situation. Even though he had executed the soul-stealing flying technique perfectly, he found himself overpowered and pushed back. Seems Big Brother surged at him again, and he realized he could only block one of his attacks. Exchanging blows once was already a miracle. "Please stop," he pleaded, calling for the senior disciple to show restraint. The assistant brother, observing the commotion, rushed in to help, attempting to slow down the eldest brother. Despite his efforts, he found himself met with a swift punch to the face. He realized the eldest brother's power was overwhelmingly high. With this in mind, the assistant called out for his elder brother, readying himself to summon his own strength. His shadow hand technique flickered into play, causing the eldest disciple to pause momentarily. However, the eldest brother, bleeding but grinning menacingly, acknowledged that he would have to reveal his true power. The assistant found himself in a precarious position now. The eldest brother declared that the ongoing conflict was driving him crazy and charged forward with every ounce of force he could muster. An explosion erupted in the area as the boy struggled to recover from the previous attack, feeling the weight of hopelessness on his shoulders. His assistant placed a hand reassuringly on him, whispering that they needed to evacuate Xian. She had placed her safely under a tree to rest, hitting the pressure points just right to knock her unconscious gently. The boy complimented her for a job well done, but worried for her safety as she insisted on joining the fight. He grasped for a plan, unsure of how to escape without risking Xian's and the assistant's lives. The weight of their predicament sank in. The eldest brother was simply too powerful. If they attempted to flee separately, one of them might not survive. Sweat dripped from his forehead as he realized they were faced with an impossible choice. With a surge of determination, he made up his mind. He would fight with everything he had. As the eldest brother unleashed another powerful attack, he sent everyone flying as if they were mere playthings. The assistant fell unconscious from the impact, and as Xian attempted to intervene, she was also knocked down, her cries dying out under the overwhelming force. The eldest brother, breathing heavily and consumed by rage, shouted, "Kill them all." When the assistant coughed up blood and struggled to regain footing, our boy called out again, "You idiot." This caught the eldest brother's attention. The latter turned back, a blend of rage and disbelief washing over his face. "Is your head just for decoration? Do you understand who you're talking to?" he bellowed, now at the pinnacle of his fury, ready to unleash his wrath on someone, anyone. The boy knew he had only one hope left for salvation. The assistant urged the boy to run away as the eldest brother relentlessly pursued him, swiftly closing in like a lion after its prey. The assistant, realizing her shoulders were injured, called out for the young master, but before he could respond, a hand was placed on her shoulder, urging her to stay down. It was the shadow assassin, who had taken it upon himself to protect the youngest junior disciple. He warned her that if she didn't wait for help to arrive, they would all perish. Meanwhile, their opponent was chasing the boy with a ferocity akin to that of a mad dog. Our boy ran ahead, but fate played cruelly as he accidentally stepped on a stone and stumbled. The eldest brother was poised to strike him down with a single blow, and when he did, the ground cracked under the force of the attack. Rolling like a snake, our boy narrowly avoided being crushed, recognizing that had the strike connected, he would have vanished without a trace. In the following tense moment, he leaped again, looking desperately for safety. Just then, the shadow assassin arrived, blocking the powerful strike intended for him. The force was so immense that it could only be stopped with both hands. "Evaluate your plan," the assassin called out. The boy insisted he needed to call for their master, but the assassin urged him to run away for the time being. As he fled for his life, he noted that others had started to gather after hearing the commotion, and he hoped that this would lessen the burden on the senior disciples. He observed from a distance, grating his teeth as the eldest brother continued with his rampage, knowing that there wouldn't be enough time to calm him down without the master. Suddenly, a figure emerged, unable to hold their ground against the eldest brother, who immediately rushed toward them, attempting to deliver a devastating blow. The person barely managed to evade the strike and called out to the eldest brother, noting that he was bothering innocent people with his outburst. The elder, growing more irate, pointed out that it was actually the other person who appeared foolish. With this exchange, he realized he had captured the elder's attention but wondered what to do next. The eldest brother prepared to hurl his sword like a spear, believing that if others could just keep him at bay long enough, they might be able to save themselves. With rage in his eyes, he launched the sword, the speed so incredible that it was nearly imperceptible. The boy didn't grasp that the eldest brother intended to use his sword as a projectile until it was nearly too late. A large explosion followed as the sword struck, and the shadow assassin called out to the junior disciples, who were taken aback by the chaos unfolding before them. Our boy, confused but unharmed, instructed everyone to step back. As he opened his eyes, he saw someone had blocked the attack. It was the master, who declared they had fought well and that he would now put an end to this chaos. The old man easily stopped the sword with the tip of his finger, making it look too effortless. As the boy charged toward him, grateful for the intervention, the master warned him not to take the eldest brother lightly. With determination in his eyes, the master commanded the eldest brother to kneel. Chains suddenly materialized, binding the boy's movements. Despite the eldest brother's attempts to retaliate with the extent of his energy, he could not withstand the bindings and was forced to kneel, displeased that he had to submit so easily. Enraged, the eldest brother shouted, but the master continued to stare at him unwaveringly, commanding respect. Eventually, he bowed his head, and everyone watched as the tension in the air began to dissipate. The fight was now over, with the old brother restrained. The onlookers struggled to comprehend the extent of power the master possessed. The aftermath of the eldest brother's rampage left his arm broken, and he cradled his wrist, realizing the consequences of his actions. It was determined that he would face confinement in the isolation chamber as punishment without any opposition from the Hayao family. As the dust settled, the assistant limped in, visibly injured but still pushing herself to attend to her duties. She inquired whether the young master would like to rest, but was met with her usual determination. She insisted they start studying and opened her books, leaving him baffled by her resolve. The boy expressed frustration, questioning how he could possibly study with a broken arm. The assistant clarified that they could focus on external skill training instead, but he resisted, explaining that was not what he meant. Just then, the old master, a heavily esteemed demon, entered asking about his condition. Both the boy and the assistant showed their respect, greeting the revered figure. The master acknowledged their current state, indicating that there was no need to bow, even their injuries. The boy explained that thanks to the doctor's excellent skills, he had no major issues. The master deemed this good news and offered a reward as a token of his appreciation. The boy, astonished at receiving a reward, expressed his gratitude, acknowledging that his quick thinking had minimized the damage. The master indicated that such achievements were important and they would celebrate them. Intrigued, the boy contemplated the significance of being rewarded directly by the heavily esteemed demon. It meant a great deal in their world. What reward could it possibly be? He pondered. The master disclosed that he was offering a demon spiritual medicine, explosive day, and more training time. The boy realized this meant even more intense training than before. The assistant's eyes sparkled as she expressed her joy, claiming that such supreme grace felt heavenly. The boy skeptically thought about the futility behind blindly praising the master. The old man then shifted his tone, stating there was one more crucial thing he needed to discuss. He wanted to know if the boy was truly okay with it and would allow a visitation with the eldest brother for a moment. The boy was taken aback but could not refuse. After a moment's hesitation, he reflected that while he didn't want to confront the eldest brother's anger management disorder twice, it was inevitable that they would meet again. Resigned, he replied, "I don't know either, so it's up to you, master." He asked if the doors of the isolation chamber were truly sturdy.